The all-electric ABB FIA Formula E World Championship is about to get underway. Welcome to qualifying for the Monaco E-Prix, and this year it's double delight. Let's cross over and join our commentary team ready to go for the action as we get ready and hand down to Nikki Shields.
Yeah, just ahead of qualifying. And I'm delighted to say that this is Monaco E-Prix with a small twist, because it's a double header and we have double the delights of James Rossiter and David Coulthard, who you guys basically are Monaco. You live here, you've been on the podium here, you've won here twice. DC, why do we love coming to Monaco?
Well, as we've been discussing all weekend in the build-up to this, it is the history. You've got incredible black and white images of the very brave racers sitting on top of their cars with leather hats and all the craziness they had back then. So it doesn't matter if you're an old driver like myself or one of these young racers, you're really aware of the challenge and the legacy of this circuit.
Yeah, I mean, James, it's a circuit that we love coming to, so much action before. But there's a lot of challenges for the drivers. It's a tight, twisty, it's a proper street circuit.
It's very unique. It's so exciting with the elevation change. Going up to the casino, this is a huge challenge, pretty unique to the guys. You've got the tight hairpins as well. You've got a tunnel, something really unique. We don't see that on many other tracks. It's the one to win.
Yeah, it really is. Obviously, we mentioned this is a double header, so double the opportunity, double the points. How critical is momentum going to be from today into tomorrow?
Well, I think you see those that have got into free practice and got up to speed quickly, that momentum is just confidence and it carries. So anyone who's on the back foot, it's going to be really difficult to catch that up today. That doesn't mean that tomorrow they can't come back, but all focus now on qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. James, let's have a quick recap of what happened in Miami, because everything really did go down. Norman Nato, he crossed the finish line first, but he did get that penalty, so it was actually Pascal Wehrlein who inherited the win. How will those drivers reflect on how they used attack mode and what went down?
So there was actually a few of the teams got caught out by the red flag very late on in the race. This late red flag meant that you had to have used all of your attack mode allotted time before that. Now, some of the guys hadn't done it. When the race restarted, they then activated their attack mode, but they couldn't use a full allotment of time, which meant they got a post-race penalty. Some of them had done it, but a few guys and girls up and down the pit lane got caught out from both the team strategy side and the driver's side. So it's something that they're definitely going to want to avoid this weekend. Yeah,
absolutely. But it was Pascal Wehrlein who came out on top. Let's remind ourselves of how the championship standings currently look. So it is still Oliver Rowland, despite a penalty at the top, a 15-point gap between himself and Antonio Felix Costa, who's had 3 podiums so far, and then joint on points, 51 points each, Pascal Wehrlein and Taylor Barnard. If we look at the second page of the standings, interesting to see Lucas de Grassi has propelled himself up with that podium finish in second place, 12th in the standings with Sam Bird just behind, but the likes of David Beckman, Zane Maloney still looking for their first points here this weekend. So much to play for. Let's remind ourselves it's Tag Heuer Porsche who are at the top there with a 25-point gap ahead of Nissan. Neon McLaren, DS Penske, Mahindra and Maserati all around a similar area. So really they're going to be looking to take charge of this moment in the season. Now it is time to head to one man who has got a lot on his mind this weekend. It's the team principal of Nissan, Tommaso Volpe, and he's with Katie Munnings.
Thanks, Nikki. Yes, Tommaso, thanks for joining us. A big weekend for you guys in Miami. Obviously a bit bittersweet. I imagine some frustrations there as well. Can you just reflect on that a bit?
Yeah, it was very frustrating, of course, because we could have collected much more points if it was not for the penalty, but we need to accept the rules. But the positive is that Norman came back in great form, so it was very fast, and he could have won or at least being on the podium with a little bit more of luck. And Oliver, despite he had not his best qualifying, he was putting together an amazing recovery as usual, so all positives at the end.
As you say, it was an amazing weekend, obviously pole position and then crossing the line first for Norman. How much has that done for his confidence and I guess the team atmosphere? I bet they're all really hungry now for a kind of home race for him in Monaco.
Yeah, for sure. We are here to fight for the championship this season, and the only negative we had in the first 4 races was that Norman couldn't score points, which is very important for us as a team to fight for the championship. And after Miami, we came back with the confidence that we can win and score strong points with both drivers, which is very important.
Well, as you say, obviously Oliver Rowland leading the Drivers' Championship going into this race, and we've got the 2 Porsche drivers behind. So what's he got in his bag this weekend to try and keep it that way?
Well, we're still at the beginning of the season, so it's too early to come to conclusions, but definitely Oliver is confirming his strengths that he showed already last year. Our package this year is much more competitive, so of course we have all the ingredients to let him win the championship, but the championship is very competitive and we have so many other strong drivers and strong cars that is very difficult.
Well, best of luck this weekend. Back to you, Nicky.
Thanks very much to Katie there and Tommaso. I mean, so much for the team principals to get their head around, and the teams from a strategy perspective. Obviously, we've got pit boost taking place today when the cars come in for that charge mid-race. When to take pit boost is the big strategic question on their minds.
Well, not only when, but as Tommaso was mentioning it, you need 2 drivers delivering results in this championship. Now, with the pit boost, you can only bring 1 car in at a time. So as a team principal, you've got to decide who's going to pit first, who's going to wait, what the strategy is. There's a huge amount of variables, and we're going to see a lot of excitement around that today.
And then we're going into qualifying. You know, it's a busy day for these guys. Normally we have free practice 1 on a Friday afternoon, but they've been up super early this morning. 2 free practice sessions, hardly a break at all, straight into qualifying, and you really only have that opportunity to put in the perfect lap once.
Well, not only the perfect lap, but all the information that they got now from FP1, they had to digest it, analyse it before FP2, then they've had to go away, digest that, try and make modifications to the car. There's been 1 man that we've seen at the top of the timesheets. Carrying confidence, as DC mentioned earlier, is a huge part of driving a street circuit. If you can carry that confidence into qualifying, you're really going to be looking good.
Okay, and then we've got to talk about the fact that Dan Ticktum has done so well in practice. Is he going to be the man we're all looking at in qualifying?
I mean, I've been waiting for him to put a weekend together. He's got tremendous speed, huge amount of raw talent. I'm really excited to see him delivering this weekend. So, yeah, I do hope he's going to deliver in qualifying.
And another, you know, consistent qualifier is Pascal Wehrlein. Is he also going to be potentially up there?
I think you can't rule anyone out in this championship. That's what makes it so exciting. So I think, you know, it's up there for everyone. Let's see what they can do.
Well, let's find out how the grid is going to line up here in Monaco on our first race of the weekend. Let's go to our commentators, Tom Brooks, Karun Chandhok and David Coulthard.
And we're all set then for qualifying to get underway for ABB FIA Formula E at this wonderful venue. Group 1 then, going to head out onto the circuit, and this is going to be a bit of a tasty weekend as well. I'm Joshua Bush. Joining us this weekend is Tom Cans. Tom, welcome to you. Nice to have you here, my friend. And here we go, Formula E in Monaco, slightly overcast, but this is actually one of the great races we have of Formula E. Surprisingly, most of the overtakes happen at this track. Oh, and Tom's muted on Discord, so I can't hear him. Just give me one. That's my fault, I think.
No,
oh, there you go. Hello. Nope, hang on. Yeah, I can't hear Tom. There's an issue.
Yeah, now you can hear me.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
That was me there. My apologies. Yeah, it seems to be like a track where we've seen a lot of overtakes. I think we saw something like 116 in last year's races, or something like that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one in Monaco. With 2 groups, 11 drivers in each of them, and then we have the fastest 8 from the 2 groups to advance into the duels. So this is Group A.
And they'll go out with Ollie Rowland, Pascal Wehrlein, Maximilian Gunther, Jake Dennis, Jean-Eric Verne, Nick De Vries, Sam Bird, Nico Muller, Nelman Nato, Sebastian Buemi and Zane Maloney. That's all head out onto the track now then for this first session. The fans are out, and it looks like they're doing a photo shoot as well, Tom, judging by that. At least I hope they're doing a photo shoot there. A lovely tender moment on one of the yachts around here. And now it finally feels a bit like Monaco and Formula E have gelled together nicely. It's the same track we use for Formula 1 as they come through Casino Square down to Mirabeau. And this is why Formula 1 should really look at Formula E. They've got narrow cars, and they can overtake here. When Formula 1 come here, it's dwarfed. They're massive cars, huge and bulky, and Formula E, slim, narrow, powerful. I don't know why Formula One's not gone down this route of smaller cars.
Well, there's so many answers I could throw in there. I mean, these cars of which Formula E use are very, very narrow and quite powerful with the amount of energy you could use. Especially during the races when we got the attack mode that the drivers will be using later on. And of course, news has been brewing in the Formula E paddock in relation to McLaren as they are set to leave Formula E at the end of this season. Now, this may have come to a surprise to those who avidly follow Formula E, but those motorsport nerds, if you want to call them, perhaps maybe saw this coming in a way.
Yeah, sadly so as well. McLaren leaving the Formula E Championship to enter the World Endurance Championship. Also, James Barclay is leaving his team principal at Jaguar to go over to the World Endurance Championship with McLaren to run that program. So Jaguar losing their key man who's been here for donkey's years, and now McLaren leaving Formula E. We ride with their driver Sam Bird coming into Saint Devote now. And let's hear his team radio.
So we can change to that plan B. If you feel that the double build is not enough, we can change to plan B.
So that plan B with the double build not enough would be to do a triple build-up lap and then just stay out and do the whole run inside 12 minutes. Because, of course, one thing we have to consider, Tom, is we only have 10 minutes to run the session. Well, 12 minutes. But Monaco is actually one of the longest tracks on the Formula E calendar. So it's a bit like our version of Spa for Formula One. A Formula E car around here takes a long time to do just two laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need like cool down laps to recharge the battery for when you do that second run, whenever you decide to do it. Of course, Formula E, as we all know, track evolution is very, very key. These may be Gen 3 cars, but they can still provide and leave a lot of rubber on the circuit during the course of this session. So they just want to be doing some banker laps at this stage, and by the time we get towards the checkered flag, providing we don't get anyone bringing out the red flag, we are going to be seeing lap times coming down more and more and more. So with it being two groups, each group will have the fastest four advancing to the duels, and they will be in play to be in the fray for pole position, which you do get 3 championship points, I believe, for getting that. So every point does matter in the championship. It's not like Formula 1 where one driver will dominate. It does change, chop and change here and there. Oliver Rowland finished 10th last time out in Miami. He did win the race on the road, but because he didn't use all of his attack mode before the race had finished, he was demoted to 10th position with a time penalty. And Pascal Wehrlein, last season's champion, was able to inherit the win for the first time this campaign. Yeah,
and Porsche desperately needed that victory as well, as we see the banker lap times come through. As you see Thomas Overpole there, the team principal at Nissan. So Nato's done a 139.5. Rowland's just gone at a 138.805. De Vries on 40.1. Bird 141.5. Then Gunther, Maloney. So they've all done banker lap times way off the pace. You can see even now that Gunther is not building up as they come up to Beau Rivage into Massenet, and then through Casino Square. Yeah, they're not lifting off at the moment, Tom, are they? They're just sort of building and making sure it's all going to be a-okay.
Yeah, there's one will be building some tyre temperature whilst they're at it, so we'll see how long it'll be before they actually start pushing these drivers. I mean, these laps are not going to be representative by any means. And going back to saying about this circuit being the longest circuit on the calendar for Formula E, unlike Formula 1's version of Spa, but it's actually a really good racetrack. I mean, downforce is key around this track, as we all know, which these Formula E cars would have been set up for courses like this one to at least provide some form of action. We've seen a lot of action in Monaco in Formula E over the years. They did use a shorter version that fed through the an even narrower part towards the Neufeld chicane, and now we're using the full layout, which is phenomenal to see. This is Pascal Wehrlein then in the Porsche coming towards got through Massenet. This is Casino Square. He is heading through now. We can just see on the graphic there, we saw some regen, trying to regenerate some energy there and using the brake. When you're using the brakes around Monaco, you do apply the brakes rather gently, but it's vitally important that you do recharge the battery so that you're not using too much energy during the race. But in quali, you could just basically go flat out at the moment.
It's a flat out run as Bird. First sector is quick. It's a 26.608. Fastest so far. But if he is doing that triple build-up plan, as we heard him talk about, it looks like he's going as flat out as he can. So the group stages, you're limited to 300 kilowatts, and he's locked up down at the Nouvelle Chicane and has cut the course. So obviously the tyre's not quite up to temperature just yet. The good thing is, though, with these hand-cooked tyres, they take ages to get heat into them, and they don't flat spot as easily with them only having 3 sets of tyres across a normal standard weekend. With this being a double header, it's 4.
Smooth as possible.
Missed the chicane. So back off, right off.
Rear locked.
We were talking about...
Yeah, rear locked, Tom, coming down into Nouvelle.
It was a rear lock and he got caught out on the bumps on the entry. So we're going to see a replay here. So as he applies the brakes, he will hit that bump. Yeah, you could just see the car unsettling on the way into there. And as soon as the car steps out like that, he knew that he wasn't going to make it. Here is Zane Maloney, who raced in Formula 2 last year. There is the McLaren just getting out of the way. But Maloney is about to post a decent lap time here. 1:33.8 is the fastest set by Oliver Rowland so far, but we expect that time to come down in the near future. Maloney over the line, it goes to the top of the timing pages by quite some margin.
It's a 1:31.032 then as it comes across. Just a reminder to you at home, our TV pictures are around about 30 seconds back from the timing page. Nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. That's due to the coverage of qualifying not being available on terrestrial television this week. TNT deciding that they're shoving it all online despite the fact they've got nothing else on due to the end of the football season. So you kind of know why all their channels are taken up. We're having to use Discovery Plus for our TV pictures. We could use the media centre, but then we don't get the audio. So it's sort of you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So we'll keep an eye on that. But welcome to everybody listening in, both on JB Motorsports and, of course, on Formula E Zone. And Formula E Zone are only 5 subscribers away from 1,000. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the Formula E Zone. Sam Bird's had his lap time deleted, by the way, Tom, for that track limits exit at the Nouvelle Chicane.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be a represented time anyway for Sam Bird. Here is Pascal Wehrlein going over the line in the Porsche. What does he put up with? Well, he's actually put together a sub-90-second lap, a 1:29.3 for him. We're right on board with Oliver in the Nissan coming through the last turn. There is a car in front of him which he may be able to use a tow from. And this is also going to be a 1:29. In fact, no, it's a 1:28.7 for the Brit, who's gone in for his first Formula E championship this season. Norman Nato, his teammate, going over the line. This is for 3rd place, but it's just been displaced by Sam Bird, who's gone into 2nd place. Jake Dennis up there now in P2. The times are continuing to tumble down. Max Gunter in the DS Penske up there into 2nd place.
Better lap times then. Roland from Gunther, Dennis and Bird coming through. Let's hear. Okay, Sam, so we'll push next lap and it'll be plan B.
So team radio there for Bird saying that they're going to go.
So it'll be push, cool, push. Cars behind you, I'm in a build. They will start pushing. So the team radio there not quite working to what we wanted it to.
It's a good strategic planning in terms of his qualifying. He's saying cool, run, and then cool. I think that's what it was. Or cool, push, pull, whatever
push, cool, push.
Sequence. Push, cool, push. Yeah, that's what I was meant to say. This is Boemi then, who has yet to post a representative time in this session. He hasn't got long, and he's only got one more chance to see how it go after this one. Will the Formula E champion of Season 2, all the way back in 2016 now. It must feel like a long time ago for Sebastian Buemi. But this is him coming through the last corner in the Envision. And this is good enough for 9th position. Half a second off the pace nearly.
Much better time then as well coming through. I thought we briefly had a red flag. The track sort of lit up, but it's all looking good on our monitors at the moment. Let's hear from Buemi.
Keep pushing. This has to be double push. Keep pushing.
Keep pushing, has to be double push. So they have to get it better, they have to get the action going. Reminder that also on JB Motorsports, you can tune in to the Super Bowl, the TISO Super Bowl for the World Superbikes. That's coming up later on, as well as Plug has very nice to just mention as well in the YouTube chat. Thank you for that. That's going to be on the main JB Motorsports account. Accidentally, it looked like it was put on the JB2, but it should have been on JB1. Black and white flag, not following race director's instructions for Jean-Eric Verne, has flashed up on our monitors, so that's not going to be a best time. Predicting information to qualify for the duels, 128.850, and right now the duels cutoff is a 128.986, so time should go faster, Tom. As Roland does in that first sector, yeah.
Yep, this is Oliver Rowland heading through the swimming pool chicane, and this is going to be him very nearly kissing the wall there, Oliver Rowland, on the exit of the chicane. But this is a tidy lap here from the Porsche driver. This is actually Verline going through, sorry, not Oliver Rowland. Verline heading over the line then. He is in need of a better time to get into the duels. He's in there for the time being, but we've still got drivers on fast laps. Bohemian's gone over the line, he's on 8 fastest. He's not heading into the duels. Oliver Rowland looking good. He's gone purple in sector 1. How does he get on in sector 2? We haven't seen whether it is a decent lap, but it's not actually quicker than what he did last time for Rowland. So this is going to be down to sector 3 where he's going to be able to extend the margin from. This is going to be him over the line, and it's not an improvement from before, so he stays where he is. Oliver Rowland, Sam Bird, green in sector 1, no improvement in sector 2, and he's actually coming into the pit lane. So Sam Bird not heading into the duels. Jake Dennis could well do, green in sector 1, purple in sector 2, out of Anthony Nose for the last time in this group part of qualifying for him.
Oh, he's done
Second place for him.
Up to P2. Dennis does go through, and Muller only goes 7th. Birds is the one who's out of position at the moment, and just by Sexton's in the pit lane, he won't do it either. So there we go. End of Group 1, and it's Roland, Dennis, De Vries, and Verline who will go through. All of the top championship contenders. Gunther's out, Bird, Muller, Verne, Nato, Buemi, and Maloney, but both DS Penske's fall at the first hurdle, and that is a very big surprise. Jay Penske doesn't know what to make of that one. The sunglasses are on, headsets off, and arms folded in the back of the garage. And Nissan also a bit sceptical. Nato hasn't gone through, but Roland has. And well, Roger Griffiths also looking through. He gets through. Well, out goes Muller, but wow, Dennis goes through as well. So a bit of an up and down session there, Tom.
It was, and Roland will be very happy with that, much to the relief of him. Verline through just by less than a 10th over Max Gunther. He will be gutted to be knocked out at this stage, but all is not lost though. They can all make it up in the race. Just because they're not made it into the duels doesn't mean they've got no chance of salvaging anything positive.
Yeah.
It is still on Roland T Radio.
Let's head down.
Expect that. Second lap wasn't good enough, but I guess the first was.
Okay, let's head down to
It's interesting looking
Warfield.
at Roland's qualifying. Last time out in Miami, he was 16th on the grid, but he has been consistently at the sharp end of the field in qualifying this season.
Yeah, I was talking to him about that yesterday, saying just in Miami, he just couldn't get the tyres into the right window, and you know these are quite sensitive in terms of if you're a few degrees off, you can't just get the tyres into that sweet spot to get the grip you want, and that's where he struggled in Miami, but no struggle here so far today.
So drivers now back into the pit lane then, and we shift our focus on to Group B. Shame there for Sam Bird actually as well. He'll be disappointed with that. It all looks pretty good in that first sector, dropped time in the second sector, and whether he made a mistake, and that's why he backed out of it, something clearly was awry for the Briton. I have to say he's done better than he did this time last year though, because he ended his pre-practice 1 session in the barrier and was out for a couple of weekends. Here's the classification though from Group A. Oliver Rowland, Jake Dennis and Nick De Vries, as well as Pascal Verline, are the 4 drivers that will go forwards and into the duels. Max Gunther does not make it through by 7/100ths of a second. Sam Bird, Nico Muller, Jean-Eric Verne, Norman Nato, Sebastian Buemi, and then Zane Maloney are the rest of the drivers who will line up behind them on the grid. Who will be in the middle of them, we'll find out when we get Group B concluded. We'll have a look at the drivers that will be going through into Group B in a few moments' time. So how it works is we have the odd drivers in Group A, the even drivers in the championship in Group B. We'll have DaCosta, Barnard, Hughes, Mortara to name just a few of them here. It's quite cloudy actually over here at Monaco. Don't forget about the Formula E Predictor app as well. Scan the QR code at the top left-hand corner of your screen. Tell us who you think is going to progress forward into the duels, and then when we're in the duels, tell us who you think is going to get the better of the driver that they are going head-to-head with. Looking forward to seeing what is going to happen when we head into those dual stages of qualifying. Absolutely critical grid position here on the streets of Monte Carlo. Group B along the way in a few moments' time. Another 12-minute session for the drivers to contend with here. See who will make it forwards in the top 4 places. On to Group B then. Antonio Felix da Costa for Tag Heuer Porsche, Taylor Barnard for Neon McLaren, Jake Hughes for Maserati, then Mortara, Mitch Evans, De Grassi, beg your pardon, as well as Van Dorn. Tictum, Cassidy, Freitz and David Beckman are the 11 drivers who will be going into this session. Now we've got the 2 Cupra Heroes in this one, and you have to say the standout performer so far today has been Dan Tictum, top of the class in both free practice sessions.
Yeah, he's gone out and been confident straight away, so that has just built as the track's evolved. So I would not be surprised if he ends up topping the times here.
Yeah, he's the first driver to lead both free practice sessions in a Formula E race since Mitch Evans in Monaco last year. So that's a bit fortuitous, because Mitch Evans, if you remember, went on to take the victory. Plenty of variables to add into that, though, including the addition of pit boost in the races, as well as we see Da Costa exiting pit lane, second in the championship for Da Costa, just 14 points adrift of Oliver Rowland's championship lead. Rowland's leading the championship, taking a bit of a knock courtesy of a 10th place classification in Miami a fortnight ago. He was one of the drivers who fell foul of the attack mode misusage.
On to Group B then, and this sees Da Costa, Barnard, Hughes, Mortara, Evans, De Grassi, Van Dorn, Tictum, Cassidy, Freitz and Beckman. Apologies for that, we just had to set up the World Superbike stream. The Wi-Fi in the garage was fine, and then as soon as we started streaming it wasn't, so I just had to run the main laptop back into the house and take a deep breath. Drone cam then, Tom. No helicopters allowed in Monaco bar Formula 1, but you allowed some drones and some lovely shots that I've never seen before. How straight Massenet Casino Square and down to the hairpins look.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it?
It's wonderful, this track. Are you at Biggin Hill for Monaco? Are you with us?
I'm in Biggin Hill for Monaco, I'm afraid.
Ah, but lucky. You get the best seat in the house for that one. To get the reviews, opinions gone.
Yeah, well, with Monaco being the circuit as it is, I'm sure that Formula 1 are looking to head to Monaco with high spirits, thinking that they can put on a brilliant show with the mandatory two pit stop rule in place, which should help provide better racing than what we had in previous seasons. But on to the session of Formula E with Group B, looking for the fastest 4 to join the likes of Oliver Rowland, Pascal Wehrlein, and the 2 others which they've also made their way through. And I'm really looking forward to see who will end up joining them in the Josh, because we'll find out soon enough who'll be facing who in the quarter-final stage.
Very shortly indeed, as hang on, Birds had a lap time to lead for track limits, so that was a few moments ago. That was the same one, so that's an old message that's just re-flashed up on our timing monitors. But yeah, build-up lap times commencing then here in Monaco as they come up Beau Rivage towards Massenet and then into Casino Square. This legendary racetrack. You don't need turn numbers to identify where you are at Monaco. I think it's the only race on the calendar where you don't even need a track map. You always know where we are at every which way. Reminder of what's coming up then on Formula E Zone. You've got both the race later on, practice 3 and qualifying, and the race 2 tomorrow. Monday, the FE Bar with the 2 jacks at 8 PM British Summer Time. It's the fan call-in show. Get your voice heard and give us your opinions on the Monaco E-Prix weekend. Jaguar TCS Racing, the first team to finish 1-2 in Monaco last season in that crazy race where Jess and Ed talked you through the action. I was disappointed I missed Monaco last year. No, I didn't. I ended up getting in with about 10 laps to go and I headed down to the pit lane on that broadcast. But boy, oh boy, I love this track and I love this race. And we get double delight this year, Tom, which I think is spectacular.
Yeah, we should do. We have 2 races this weekend, one today and one tomorrow. How will Lucas Di Grassi get on? Because he'll be a very, very happy man after his 2nd place finish in Miami. Lola have struggled for form this season, but Miami proved to be the anomaly of that. And this is a driver I've been very impressed with this season, Barnard.
And starting first build. Let's focus on front tyre warm-up.
There that was Barnard. Go on, Tom.
Taylor Barnard is someone I've been looking forward to seeing how he got on, how he's going to get on in Formula E this campaign, and he's done a terrific job so far. And I was even discussing with Nicky about his prospects of Formula E. We know this is going to be his only season with McLaren because McLaren are pulling out Formula E at the end of this campaign, but I'm sure there'll be other teams interested in his services. And will he be able to make it into the Gills? We'll find out soon enough. We know that Sam Bird won't be, hence why he's still in the garage there. But I've been really impressed with Barnard this season.
Same here. Barnard has a chance at the World Championship, but he's been remarkably consistent. And if McLaren can clinch it on the way out, they'll join Mercedes in doing that same feature. And also Audi, who did the same. Di Grassi then. He's gone top, 1:33.414. That's still another build-up lap time as they're warming their tyres out of down through Portier into the tunnel and down to the Nouvelle chicane. There is Di Grassi now building up a lap time with the Lola Yamaha apt squad. Up Beau Rivage, and really is bouncing against the barriers. And didn't have a great race here in Formula 1 back in 2010, and he almost loses it at the top of Casino Square. This is proper Monaco racing. You have to actually fight a Formula E car to get around this place. It is a bit more, less bicycle around the living room, more unicycle, I believe.
No, I would imagine so. Lucas Di Grassi, well, you have to find every 10th you can gain, and that means running very, very close to the walls. You can see how that front right is running very close. You just see as he applies the power, a kick of wheel spin as he gets the power down, which is never ideal. But this is Lucas Di Grassi heading towards the Nouvelle chicane. How does he get the car slow down? Well, he does get the car slow down so close to hitting that orange Marshall post there on the barrier on the left-hand side. And he will be carrying on his way through to back. And the car's still twitching around, having to fight his way through. Straighten the car up nicely through the swimming pool chicane. Not having really to do too much with the steering wheel. It's just riding the curb and hoping that the car can just roll its way through. And this is Laura Raskas now. Now, we saw the fastest time, Josh, which I believe was of 1:27
last time.
in the first group. So we're not expecting times to be around that at this stage with 5 minutes still to go. Di Grassi with a 1:30.
Just seen an iPhone X down there as well as the work phone on the down at Jaguar. That took me by surprise. I was going to mention a statement there, but I saw an iPhone 12 and I saw an iPhone X. That's still using that technology, I see. The original one all those years ago. About 6 now, isn't it? So, over the line, there's still an iPhone 9. There was never an iPhone 9. Can we just accept that? We went from 8 Plus to 10, and there was never an iPhone 9. And we just ignore the fact also there was never an iPhone 2. So it was so bizarre. Apple's marketing department are crazy. No actual times have been set just yet. Everybody is now building up to run. Here's Robin Frides as well, just getting ready, coming through the swimming pool chicane. He's got he's got David Beckman just ahead of him. Beckman, of course, who's won round this circuit before, so should know a thing or two about how to handle it. And when are we going to get the go moment? Now it is. We cut down to Portier and Mitch Evans as he rumbles down through the tunnel.
He used a little bit of the curb on the outside as he applied the throttle, did Evans. And this is through the tunnel, coming out of the tunnel now for the Kiwi, aiming for his first Formula E title. He's bound to get one at some stages. He's come close a number of times, and he really needs a positive weekend in what's been a rather wretched season for him so far. He started off brightly with that win in Brazil, but since then he's just not been the same driver.
Sadly, he hasn't been the same driver. Multiple errors, multiple issues as well. A surprisingly great race in Sao Paulo, as you said, from the back of the grid after stopping in qualifying with a battery issue over the line. And it's a 1:29. 28.163. Barnard's already improving the middle sector. First sector for DaCosta as well, looking fast. Tictum's coming into the final corners now through Raskas into Anthony Nose. Slide in the rear as you head down towards the start line. And this is just slightly downhill here at Monaco as it heads down before climbing back up. Tictum's gone second. Here comes Cassidy, goes fourth. Mortapa's down to fifth. Barnard on top though. 1:29.016. The race he made his debut out here last year. He's currently top of Group B with 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, well, Barnard knows his way around this circuit very well from his Formula 2 days, because he did win the sprint race in F2 last year in Monaco, and he's doing a fine job so far. Robin Fry's up to second place in the Envision. Lucas Di Grassi in need of a positive lap here. Green's in sectors 1 and 2, so should he be able to keep it neat and tidy in the remainder of the lap as we go helmet cam with Di Grassi through Larascas and Anthony Nose. He just needs to apply the throttle nicely on the exit, not too much wheel spin. It seems to be all well and good as he heads towards the line. Lucas Di Grassi only P7.
Down a lot there on his time. He's 84 thousandths off of the dual time. But look, the time of the duels from DaCosta, 1:29.258. Tictum, 3 thousandths of a second off. Mortara, 66 thousandths off. Di Grassi, 84 thousandths of a second off. There's, again, not much separating them, as Barnard and Fry separated by 20 thousandths of a second. There's barely anything at the moment, as you can see on your screens above on our timing monitors and driver trackers. There is the Neum Formula E McLaren team's garage. And now Mitch Evans starts his lap. This will be his last run with 1:16 to go into Sandervoort. Uphill, put your power down early. You only got, remember at this stage, 300 kilowatts and 2-wheel drive. When we get into the duels, it'll be 4-wheel drive and 350 kilowatts of power. Massive amounts of change on that they have to deal with. And that's why we're seeing the rear sliding a little bit. Power's coming from the rear, not from the front tyres.
Yeah. And he's heading towards Mirabeau here, is Evans, as he gets down towards the, what is now known as the, it used to be called Hotel Hairpin, but I think it's called something else now.
I think it's Fairmont, isn't it now?
It's Fairmont, yeah. They keep changing the name for that for some reason, probably because of the name of the hotel nearby. But Vermont Hairpin, as it is today, Evans heading through the tunnel, and this is the Nouvelle chicane which he's braking towards as he applies. I just saw it twitch slightly as he went through the bumps on entry, and this is the Jaguar pilot coming out of the chicane through to back. He seems to be rather cautious through there, did Evans. Now he wants to straighten the car up for the swimming pool chicane. Not too shabby. What about the second part of it? Doesn't use too much of the yellow sausage curve on the outside, or the inside rather. This is the Larascas. Avoids the wall on the inside, and this is through Anthony Nose. Sweet and sound, and Evans will be able to improve his time here, I think. Goes to the top.
1:28.960. Evans through safely. Now Barnard finds DaCosta. Battle for the dueling positions. We've got Tictum fastest of all in Sector 1. Cassidy's got personal best 1 and 2. DaCosta personal best Sector 1, but down by 3/10 in Sector 2. Over the line then comes this is going to be Dan Tictum, and he's fastest. The man from FP1 and FP2 tops his group as well. 1:28.6. The Cooper Cairo looking fantastic here. Cassidy only manages to go to 8th place. What about DaCosta? Over the line now, takes the checkered flag, and he stays 5th. He doesn't go through. Mortara improves up to 5th. So that is 3rd row of the grid for DaCosta in P7. It's going to be 4th row. Up goes Van Dorn. Up goes Beckman. Disaster. Coming for Cassidy, who's now down to 10th place. Hughes stays 11th. And Di Grassi, surely now, as France comes across the line, he's through into 4th. Di Grassi's time is into the pit lane. Tictum, Evans, Barnard and Frines through. Mortara out, Beckman, Van Dorn, DaCosta, Di Grassi, Cassidy and Hughes. What happened there for Jaguar?
Well, that's a bit of a shock, really, for Jaguar to see Cassidy down there so far down. Evans through into 2nd place, a much needed qualifying session for him. But Dan Tictum, what a time.
He was fastest in practice 1, fastest in practice 2. The Cooper Cairo has come out of nowhere this weekend, and Dan Tictum of course, winner of the Macau Grand Prix all those years ago, is loving life on the streets of Monaco. Watch out, Tictum's about.
Tictum.
Yeah, very good, guys. Very, very good. Just a bit of a messy first sector on the first push. Tyres weren't quite in.
Let's head down to the world feed.
Lovely job from Dan Tictum. Exactly what he needed to do. Anything other than going through and into the duels would have been a disappointment there for the Briton. And to do it by such a margin, 0.3 of a second. I mean, that's the quickest lap we've seen in 300 kilowatt power this weekend, DC.
Yeah, look, he's just in the groove, isn't he? As he explained there to his team, he didn't quite get up to speed as early in the session as maybe I would have expected, but when it really mattered, he pulled the lap. And there's still more lap time to come. He's, what, 10th and a half down on Taylor Barnard, that middle part of the lap. So I'm going to assume a small mistake somewhere around that middle sector, but first and third sectors absolutely nailed it, and giving the team reason to be happy.
Yeah, delighted there for the Cupra Kiro outfit. Dan Tictum's race engineer, Nico Morel. And just congratulating one another after a very strong result. Remember that team with ERT, they were comfortably the slowest team on the grid in Formula E last season. Ran their own powertrain. Now they've got a customer Porsche power unit in the back of that one, and it has done great things for them. And especially when Idris Elba, their co-founder, is here this weekend as well. So something for them to smile about, and let's see how far they can take it in the dual stages of qualifying. Tictum, Evans, Barnard and Fright are the top 4 drivers that will go forwards into the dual stages of qualifying, coming along the way in a few moments. So then we look at Mitch Evans in the box. There is Antonio Felix da Costa, and he'll be so disappointed with the end of that session. Not only did he fail to make it through, he was also out-qualified by a further 3 drivers, including David Beckman at the end of that one. Let's get clarification, though, of the results from Group B. It is Dan Tictum in the Cupra Kiro, top of the pile by 0.3 of a second over Mitch Evans. Barnard in 3rd, ahead of Frights in 4th. Sadly, missing out on the duels is Edo Mortara. He's been very quick so far this weekend, so he'll be quite disappointed. Ahead of David Beckman, Stoffel Van Dorn, 2nd in the championship for Antonio Felix da Costa, but only 8th fastest at the end of Group B. Ahead of Degrassi, podium finisher from Miami. Nick Cassidy, championship challenger from Season 10, down there in 10th place, ahead of the Briton Jake Hughes, who just sadly couldn't get a lap time together in the Maserati MSG machine. It's that team's home race here this weekend in Monte Carlo. And now we look forward to the dual stages of qualifying. So what happens here in Formula E is we move over from 300 to 350 kilowatts of power. 4-wheel drive traction for the drivers as well. And we look at what I imagine is a very frustrated Nick Cassidy walking down to the FIA garage to be weighed. But he's putting a brave face on it, I have to say. So let's see whether they can turn their fortunes around for E3 this afternoon. We're going to have a bit of team radio here from Da Costa earlier on in the session. That'll be coming along the way for you in just a couple of moments, as we see Dan Tictum jumping out of the Cupra Kiro. Good lap time there for Dan Tictum, and thankfully for him, not quite a long walk down towards the garage, because of their performance in Season 10 as ERT, they're quite far down the pit lane, so a bit of a short stroll there for Tictum. There is Pascal Wehrlein getting himself ready for the dual stages of qualifying. The reigning world champion in the purple Porsche. See what Wehrlein is going to be able to do. He was only 4th quickest, though, at the end of Group A. So there's performance there, clearly, David, but needs to extract a bit more if he's going to get through into the finals.
Well, he's certainly got the skills to unleash the last little bit of performance later in the session. So it would be difficult to imagine he was just doing enough, because you clearly don't know exactly what your opposition is going to do, so maybe slightly on the back foot, but it just all seems to be building towards the feeling that this is Dan Tictum's to lose.
I'm sorry. Annihilated the wall at the back. Lost 2 temps, my bad.
P2 baby. Oh, made by 600ths. Awesome work.
Okay, I got right hand down, I smashed it, mate. Outside wall.
No one could have predicted that, could they? Which is why we love qualifying in Formula E here in Monaco. Things have gone off to an absolutely cracking start. Dan Ticktum, he said coming into this race weekend, he had a bit more confidence, he was feeling good in the car, but 3/10 quicker. Wow, what a start.
It's massive, especially when you consider that actually in Group A, between the top 4 was only 1.5 tenths. So for him to then go 3 tenths quicker in his group than anyone else, and also to be fastest in free practice 1 and free practice 2. I can't remember the last time when anyone has done that consistently and then also won their group quali stages. If he gets on pole, I think it could even be the first time that we've seen that.
We might have a new record here. So that was the quick highlight of what happened in Group B. Let's remind ourselves of what happened in Group A. Roland, yet again, so consistent in qualifying, into the duels for a 5th time this season. Brilliant for him and that, you know, championship fight that he's at the moment.
Yeah, especially when you consider the 2 Porsches that will be working together behind him, not so far away. I think that's a massive boost for him. He's so confident, he's so strong on every type of circuit that he races on. And as you say in Formula E, points and consistency is what wins championships. So yeah. I'm sure he's very happy with that.
Pascal Wehrlein also very strong in qualifying. He's only been in the duels 3 times, but of those, he's qualified twice on pole. So potentially we could see Pascal Wehrlein on pole again in Monaco.
Yeah, for sure we can. But it's a shame for Antonio, obviously his teammate not making it through. But the Porsche powertrain looking strong. Obviously, that's what Dan's on this year, and it seems to be that he's found the confidence in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then back to Group B. Obviously, Antonio Felix da Costa, who is such a strong driver. He's won here in the past. Not getting through to the duels. He's going to be really disappointed with that.
Yeah, I mean, the margins are so fine here. And we were talking about it earlier in commentary. To be fast on a track like this, DC was saying, you know, you can't drive 100% on a street circuit like this because the margins are so small. We saw them, a lot of them using the runoff or missing the chicanes also, and then you get your lap times deleted in qualifying. So you have to have more margin than some of the drivers might prefer a different type of circuit. And I think Monaco is very unique with the elevation. And I think, to be honest with you, we saw a lot of cars struggling with understeer, and also when we were looking at some of the onboards of Degrassi in the last Group B session, we were saying he really looked like he was very unsettled on the rear of the car. So seems like a real fine balance to set the front axle up properly on this track.
Well, shall we hear from him? Because Antonio Felix Costa is with Saunders. Let's hear from them now.
Monaco is always the first ambition is to try and get out of the duels, out of the qualifying groups into the duels. Wasn't meant to be today.
Just been struggling all day, to be honest. Just yeah, not feeling very good in the car at the moment. So yeah, you always have the hope when you go into quali that somehow that magic lap can come out, but today was just too hard to make it happen. So yep.
So refocus now for the race and try and maximise as much as you can.
Yeah, pit boost race, so a bit of strategy can happen. Yeah, it's always hard here to go massively forwards, but we'll try.
Thanks, Antonio.
Well, obviously, the day hasn't quite gone to plan for Antonio Felix da Costa, but it's Monaco, and in Formula E, that means plenty of overtaking. As you mentioned earlier in the show, 197 overtakes from last season. So ultimately, there is still so much to play for. Pole position is not everything in Formula E here. But what do you think we're going to see going into the dual phases?
Well, I was just about to say also, I think even qualifying might not be so important here when you consider that we've got the new pit stop today as well. So I think we might see the position swapping even more. So I'm sure he's thinking about that. But for the duals, obviously ramping up to 350 kilowatts, completely different driving style now with the 4-wheel drive. A lot more drive coming out of the corners. We saw some drivers preferring to test that more when they were in the last practice session. So yeah, I'm sure we'll see some change up in the orders again because it is a very different technique to drive.
Yeah, well, it was obviously Jaguar who did superbly well here last year. They played the team game. It was a 1-2 for Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy, the first time we've seen that for a team here in Monaco. Mitch Evans has got through to the duels, but Nick Cassidy is yet to make it through to the duels. Again, that qualifying performance slipped away from him today. He's talking to Saunders. Let's hear from him now.
Nick Cassidy, first ambition is always try to get out of the groups into the duels. Wasn't meant to be today. What are your hopes for the race?
Yeah, that one sucked. I don't know, we'll just try to have a clean race. Hopefully the car stays in one piece and we go again tomorrow.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
Yeah, having a clean race, obviously absolutely critical here in Monaco. And yeah, a reminder that we get to do it all over again tomorrow. So there is the opportunity for some redemption. Now let's head to Karun, who's down at the EPAD.
Thank you, Nicky. Let's take a look at Nick Cassidy's lap. As you say, hugely disappointing for him. Second last in that group qualifying session there. And he just never looked at any point like he had the confidence to attack in the same way that Evans did. Just a bit wide there coming through the chicane. Didn't get the rotation he wanted. Then when we get up to back, just if I slow it down a little bit there, a little bit of correction. But you can see he's not right up against the barrier in a way that you'd like to see a driver at one with the car. At the next chicane as well, through the Springfield complex, again some corrections as he came off the curb. Let's slow it down into Raskas, turns it in the front of the car, goes in okay, but then, you know, he's just not able to carry the minimum speed that Evans was able to there. So yeah, on the whole, it doesn't seem like there's just one obvious mistake, but slightly worryingly for Nick, just a lack of confidence and grip all the way around.
Thanks very much, Karun. So we are counting down just some moments away from the jewels of qualifying here in Monaco getting started, when we get to see those 8 drivers go head-to-head in the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and then the all-important final. Let's kick things off and go over to Tom Brooks in commentary.
Thank you very much indeed, Nicky. Looking forward to this one then. Time to have a look at the duels and see who is going to be going head-to-head with one another. So Nick de Vries versus Jake Dennis up first in the quarterfinals. Then it is reigning world champion Pascal Wehrlein, along with championship hopeful Oliver Rowland, Taylor Barnard and Mitch Evans are going against one another. And then Robin Freins versus Dan Tincton. 2 drivers from each of those 4 pairings will go through into the quarterfinals. Then it will be sorry, to the semi-finals rather, and then it will be into the finals for that front row fight for pole position. Up first, Nick de Vries and Jake Dennis. Unlike what we saw in the group stages a few moments ago, we move up from 300 to 350 kilowatts of power, and we also have 4-wheel drive as well. And being the duels, there is only one flying lap. And given what we've seen in the group stages of qualifying, David, drivers have taken a good handful of laps to get the heat to the tyres and the brakes in, so there's not a lot of opportunity to get everything into that window.
No, I think they need to go out and hit it hard straight out of the pit lane. Clearly they're going to be suboptimal in terms of the preparation of the tyres. But it's the same for everyone, so confidence will win through.
This is very true. You see the sun shining through the clouds here in Monte Carlo. Interestingly, a threat of rain on the horizon for tomorrow, we understand. So let's see whether that comes to anything. This is Jake Dennis. We heard some team radio from him at the end of the group stages of qualifying, saying that he was quite disappointed and ended up almost clipping the wall on one occasion, but he still managed to get through, and he will go head-to-head with Nick de Vries, who I have to say has been on brilliant form this weekend in the Mahindra. Both of those drivers, de Vries and Mortara, inside the top 10 in FP1 and FP2. Sadly, Mortara not making it through into the duels, but de Vries is going to lead their charge.
Yep, and we're getting all set then, ready to go. We've returned to the correct laptop as well, which means Tom can see me and I can see Tom. And right, here we go then, Tom. Quarterfinal number 1, head-to-head this season already. Dennis 1, de Vries 0. Predictive vote says 72% for Jake Dennis. But here we go then, the first one. Interesting group stages. Now we're going to be in, I think, for a better run now coming into the duels.
We'll see soon enough, and it looks like de Vries is going to be the first driver out of the pits first. Well, he's going to be out of the pits first, I should say, before Dennis is. And which could maybe aid Dennis a little bit because of the track evolution slightly. Yeah. But we'll see how de Vries gets on when the laps do finally start. And as far as Formula E is concerned, they tend to show the onboard simultaneously. When Dennis begins his lap, then we can go sort of synchronize and watch the action the way we are doing, me and Josh are, whilst you lot are watching or listening to the commentary over at your end on the stream. But it's going to be interesting how the quarterfinals goes. I did miss who's facing who. I think Robin Freins is facing Tincton in the last quarterfinal. Oliver Rowland's up against Pascal Wehrlein in one of the other quarterfinals.
Yeah, we've got it here actually on the screen now. So it's de Vries and Dennis, Wehrlein, Rowland, Barnard, Evans, Freins, Tincton. So that's the order it's going to be. So it'll be Verline ahead of Roland next. As I write that down in my monitor. Of course, up now to 350 kilowatts of power and four-wheel drive, Tom. It's a whole different kettle of fish to try and drive it after just doing that in what we saw was a tricky rear-wheel drive car setup in the previous session.
Yeah, and they won't have been able to do. I don't know if they'd be able to do that during practice.
You can test it
earlier
once,
this morning,
yeah.
but
yeah, you can test it once.
Okay, so at least they've got a little bit of practice under their belts for that. But this is De Vries then coming round. Anthony knows to begin his 350 kilowatt lap around the streets of Monte Carlo. So that is him heading towards Sandefjord. Hopefully he can get the car slowed down for them. It's quite it's a tricky transition going from 300 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts because you have to change your approach in how you tackle the corners compared to how you did during 300 kilowatts. And Jake Dennis has gone over the line to begin his lap, and we can start some comparisons.
So 9,000 already for Dennis as he comes up Beau Rivage. First sector time, I can tell you, for De Vries is a 25.704. Dennis is now coming to that sector point now, and it's a 25.790. So there is literally thousands of a second between them as we see De Vries come out of the tunnel, nearly hit the wall, mid-tunnel, breaking down now into the Nouvelle chicane. Four-wheel drive now can put the power down, and the front starts to snap. To back is going to be a really hard corner to master. I wouldn't be surprised if once we see one of the drivers throw it into the wall. Second sector time for De Vries is a 36.712. Dennis is looking mighty here as he comes through the Nouvelle chicane, Tom. Middle sector, I can tell you, after to back, and it's for Dennis 36.8. So De Vries ahead at the moment.
It looks like Dennis had missed the apex at the chicane slightly as De Vries gets over the line with a 126.8. We'll find out what Dennis is doing. He's nearly 2 tenths down from the last comparison. Yeah, he's dropping away, isn't he? I think it's safe to say that De Vries has made it through into the semis.
126.890 then. Dennis over the line, has lost out of it. Dennis is out. De Vries goes through with a much faster time. Dennis making mistakes, and it's cost him. Next up, Verline and Roland. De Vries goes through. Didn't see that one coming.
I think it was something like 27% that he was predicted to beat Dennis. So he was able to even the score in the dual record with Dennis there, did Nick De Vries, who, just like Jake Dennis, is a Formula E champion. So two Formula E champions going head-to-head there. And De Vries came out on top this time around here in Monaco.
This is the swimming pool section for Dennis. On entry, the car just stepping out, and you were right, that's where he's lost the major of time, and he just took, well, he took all of the curve, didn't he, to the second phase of the swimming pool.
Yeah, and that would have cost him some crucial speed on the exit heading into the second part of the swimming pool.
Head-to-head now, Verline and Roland. 4 times it's gone to Verline, only once to Roland this season. Predictor vote now, how much we saying is Oliver Roland with a 54% advantage in the predictor vote from you lot at home. That's a brave call, but worse things have happened. De Vries has gone through to the semi-finals as well, as Verline starts his lap time now with Roland just behind him. Track advantage should belong to Roland here, but time should get faster.
He came very close to hitting the wall on the exit there, Verline. It almost looked like he carried too much speed into Sandefjord. Let's see how Roland gets on. How does he tackle Sandefjord? Does he go a little bit more cautious? He does actually go a little bit more cautious to what Verline did. And I think Verline's basically overdriving into the corner there had cost him some crucial speed on the exit. So Roland, meanwhile, yeah, you could just tell by the gap, he's a 10th up by this stage of the lap where he's at compared to where Verline is. Verline has got some work to do. He gets a kick of oversteer. First part of Portier.
It's 25.686 the first sector for Verline. Roland is a 25.4 4.39. He's just getting faster and faster and faster. Second on the track, seeming to have the advantages in this stage of qualifying. Verline fighting the car through Nouvelle as he heads down towards the back. Second sector for Verline is a 36.837. Roland's approaching that now, but the rear steps out under braking into the Nouvelle chicane. He gets in, caught up though, and heads down towards the back.
Yep, and he's still maintaining that quarter of a second margin over Verline. If Roland can just keep it neat and tidy in the remainder of the lap, he'll easily get through to the semis. Verline through Anthony knows, and he's not exactly attacking it as sweetly as he needs to have done, I don't think, Pascal Verline. So I think it's safe to say that Oliver Roland is going to make his way through into another semi in a duel.
1:26.862 for Verline. Here comes Roland over the line, and it's going to be absolutely obliterating it. It's a tenth and a half faster. Roland goes through then. The time is a 1:26.709. Way, way, way faster than we predicted. Okay, more like it, more like it. Time's coming through. Next up, Barnard and Evans. Yeah, Roland was strong on that lap now, and Nissan looking a bit better here as well, Tom.
They do seem to be, and Roland, it's team radio.
Smashed the wall at turn 15.
Oh! Could have been more time, Tom.
It could have been more time, but I want to see whether he actually did hit the wall. Well, we've just come away from the replay. And so it's Taylor Barnard and Mitch Evans. It's 1-0 to Barnard's favour in their previous battle in a duel. And Barnard is tipped to beat Evans this time around here in Monaco as well.
So that last gap was plus 0.153 of a second. And Roland went through. So the gaps are increasing with who's being faster and not. That was the fast lap time we just had in that previous session as well. Here we go then for another lap time. Barnard first with Evans in second place as they come through. As they head down over the line into Saint-Devote. You can see where they've locked up coming in entry earlier on in the free practice sessions. And then charge it up Beau Rivage towards Massenet and Casino Square. We join Evans on board now for that run as well into turn 1. And already, Jaguar should be having the advantage here. But Barnard made his debut here in Formula E last year, then went on to win the Formula 2 sprint, and he even said it was driving around Monaco that gave him the advantage. We're side by side, Barnard looking strong, but first sector, 25.7. Evans coming through now, 25.612. Evans faster by a tenth.
Yeah, and Barnard's able to get the gap down a little bit more, though. So Barnard is still in play to beat Evans at this moment in time, but even though the gap is still a tenth, we'll wait for the updated comparison from when Evans makes his way through Porte, and Barnard's back ahead of him.
Barnard is back ahead. So this is going to be very, very exciting to see where they can run into it.
He had a kick of oversteer through the swimming pool chicane, did Barnard. Evans should be able to take advantage of that, but Evans is a long way back by this stage of the lap now as he goes through to back.
Over the line then, Taylor Barnard will complete it, and it's a 1:26.752 for the youngster. What can Mitch Evans do as he comes into the Rascasse, hugs the inside car, pushes him down? No, nothing there. Down over the line now. It's Evans going to... Well, he's 3 tenths off. It's over before he even gets to the line. Evans lost on time. He's 4 tenths back. Barnard goes through to the semi-finals. McLaren happy with that one.
Nice. Yeah, very nicely done from Barnard to get through there. And the McLaren team have every reason to feel very, very happy there. Their young driver, Mitch Evans, well, he'll have to settle. I don't know whether he set a better time than the other losers in the quarter-final stages. If he has done, then 5th place, best case scenario for him. James Barker there, looking on, not the best pleased of individual he is there, but this is Barnard. This is him getting a kick of oversteer through the swimming pool chicane. Team radio.
Ah, good stuff, mate. Nice.
So by no...
They were happy with him, but it was sliding through the swimming pool. Okay, next up. Robin Frines and Dan Ticktum. They've never faced each other in a duel before. but the predictor vote going Dan Tinktum's way, and arguably, Tom, you've got to agree, fastest in free practice 1, fastest free practice 2, fastest in Group B with a 128.661. Now, with full power and four-wheel drive, he should be the man to beat.
He should be. He's got the McLaren right behind him. That's Barnard who's going back into the pit lane. Rines needs a strong session. Well, he has had a strong session in qualifying. We're going to be in the championship. He is, well, he only got his first points of the season last time out in Miami, and he needs to continue that form here. Envision have struggled so far this season, and Rines needs to make up for that here now and get past Dan Tinktum, but I think it's going to be a tall order, really, because Tinktum has been mightily quick. This has been arguably his best race weekend in Formula E so far.
First sector time for Robin Frines is a 25.716 as he comes into Mirabeau, down to the Fairmont hairpin or the Lowe's hairpin or Gasworks hairpin, whichever what you want to call it, through into Portier 1 and Portier 2, and then through under the tunnel. First sector time for Tinktum at 25.676. He's up by 40 thousandths of a second, and that gap is closing. This is a very tight duel as Frines heads down to the braking zone of the Nouvelle Chicane.
Half a tenth up by this stage of the lap as Tinktum makes his way through the tunnel now. It's still game on to find who will join the likes of Roland, Barnard and De Vries in the semis, and Tinktum is 100th down by this stage.
It's going to be a really close fight as they come into it as well. Dan Tinktum, 36.836 second sector. It's Frines who's got it with a 36.772. They're matching each other time and time again. Over the line comes Robin Frines. It's a time of a 26.955. Tinktum's up by a tenth. Coming into Anthony Noakes over the line. Is Tinktum through to the semi-finals? Answer, yes! By a stunning margin in that last sector. 126.784, 0.171 faster. Cooper Cairo have found something in Monaco, and the British fans have come to support Tinktum, loving that in the grandstand.
Loving it, and so they should. Really good lap there from Tinktum. You know, he'll have done a 350 kilowatt lap earlier in practice, and you could just see how that has favoured him so much this weekend. And yeah, he'll be very happy with us. And this is a replay of him going through the swimming pool section. You see the left-hand side kicking up his team radio.
Yeah, well done. He's through. Good job. 1.5 tenths. Very good.
Not too bad, not too shabby. Could we be talking about a Dan Tinktum pole? Is that likely?
Well, it is possible. What I will say is that the left-hand side of Tinktum's car was lifting off the ground, and that's probably because of the way the car sort of distributes to the right-hand side, and the left-hand side just lifts up as it sort of plants to the ground. And there we see Sylvain Philippi, part of the Envision squad. He'll be very probably disappointed overall with how this weekend has gone so far. Probably a better weekend than most, but still there's some way off where they need to be at.
Okay, let's head down to the world feed then, as we confirm who's where and when in this session.
Easily his best qualifying of the season, whatever happens here. But you can see how he got to the semi-finals. We had De Vries versus Dennis, Roland versus Verline, Barnard versus Evans, and Frines versus Tinktum. The upshot is, in the semis, it'll be De Vries versus Roland, Mahindra versus Nissan, and then the Cooper Kiro versus the Neon McLaren of Tinktum versus Barnard. That'll be an interesting head-to-head because both of those drivers are really performing well here so far this weekend. Let's see who is going to reign supreme. Arguably, your money should be on Dan Tinktum given his form so far here in Monte Carlo. But with the one-lap shootouts that we have in the dual stages, it can lead to those crucial errors coming in at critical moments. So there is Tinktum. Pole position's not out of the question at all here. Very much in the question, I think, for Cooper Kiro, isn't it?
I mean, his time, 26.78. If you compare that, Barnard 26.75, Roland 26.70. You know, yeah, but there, aren't they? There's three of them who've done a time within 800s.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how close the margins are. There is Taylor Barnard, 20 years old, breaking all sorts of records in Formula E in his first full-time rookie season. And a superhero performance so far then from Dan Ticktum.
Can you name all those characters or something?
No. It's not my bag, that, I'm afraid. How about you? No. I thought maybe because you've got kids it might be your sort of thing, but I guess not. Well, inside the new Cooper Kiro garage then. And preparation stations now for that team as they wait for the semi-finals. Here is Oliver Rowland, who'll be chatting to his race engineer, working out where the weaknesses and strengths are ahead of their semi-finals coming on the way in a few moments' time. So, into the semi-finals then. It will be Nick de Vries versus this man, championship leader Oliver Rowland, coming up first of all. And let's see how this one is going to work out. Let's go down to the pit lane though, catch up with Jake Dennis. He was a driver who was unlucky to not make it through to the quarterfinals when he went head-to-head with Nick de Vries, and see what the Brit have made of that qualifying session.
Jake Dennis certainly didn't leave much out there, but quarterfinals was best you could do today.
Yeah, I think I hit every wall out there in the groups and then the duels. Really left nothing out there. It's just really difficult to put it together. I don't know if everyone else is sort of struggling, but yeah, the car is on such a knife edge, so you either get it in the window or you don't. Managed to do it in the groups, but then in the duels just slipped away from me, a few mistakes, and eventually bent the steering quite bad in 15, and then sector 3 was compromised. But honestly, first time I've made the duels here, so pretty happy.
Thanks, Jake.
Cheers.
Yeah, good to hear there from Jake Dennis. Disappointed to not go any further than the quarterfinals, but as he said, hit the ball on the outside. Knows that there's good pace in the car. And let's catch up with Pascal Wehrlein, who was unlucky to also not go forwards from the quarterfinals when he went head-to-head with Oliver Rowland.
Pascal Wehrlein, coming off the back of the race win in Miami, I'm sure pole position would be the target, but it looks like you have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, for sure it was the target. I think we're starting 5th, so it's also not a bad spot to start the race. Yeah, I felt like a really good lap, just on the maximum I could do what the car was capable of. Struggling a bit with balance and so on, so not 100% happy. Actually, I was happier this morning in practice session, so yeah, we know there's a bit more potential, but like I said, P5 is not too bad.
We've seen here in the past how instrumental team play can be in success, but with Antonio starting right down the back of the grid, how might that impact your capabilities today?
I don't expect a lot of things to do there if you have one driver at the front and the other one quite far off.
Thanks, Pascal.
Well, qualifying absolutely critical here in Monte Carlo. Sadly for Wehrlein, he will not be going any further than the quarterfinals. So semi-finals on the way in a few moments' time. Nick de Vries versus Rowland, Ticktum versus Barnard. And we say goodbye to Dennis, Wehrlein, Evans and Freitz from the quarterfinals. Of course, only 2 drivers from the semis can go through and into the finals to see who will line up where on the front row of the grid. Who will claim those all-important 3 points for pole position. Semi-final 1, Oliver Rowland versus Nick de Vries. 82% of you have got the swing with Oliver Rowland in the Nissan. No surprise at all, he's a championship leader and he has qualified inside the top 5 on 4 occasions in 2024 and 25, I should say. Only Miami last time out was the blot on his copybook, whereas Nick de Vries, though he's had a good number of top 10 starts over the last few weekends, he has not had quite the same performance that Rowland has had in that Nissan, but he has been on good form so far this weekend. Let's see what he's going to be able to do here as he makes his way onto the circuit. Well, he managed to out-qualify Jake Dennis a few moments ago, Corinne, so he's just got to go and try and repeat the same sort of lap time.
Yeah, I believe that's the first time one of the Mahindras has won a duels in this season, so that was a good effort for him. I mean, they made big progress, haven't they, since last year, and you know, at this stage, you look at it, if you're Nick de Vries, and whatever happens, you're starting on the first 2 rows of the grid, which is a really good result for them.
Yeah, as we say, qualifying absolutely critical here, DC. I mean, if we look back to the pit boost race that we saw in Jeddah a couple of months ago, great though the racing was, the track completely different in terms of characteristics here. You can't cycle your way through from 16th on the grid. It's unlikely.
People can make their car wider around the streets of Monaco. I still think with the increase in performance, there'll be obvious points that you can just out-accelerate.
Yeah, and just looking at it, we've just spent the last minutes working this out. Well, we know the top 4 going through. 5th on the grid, that belongs to Nick. Fifth fastest actually was De Vries in that session. He's gone through, but he hasn't been as fast. So De Vries in that session was 5th fastest with 1:26.890. But instead of starting on the grid, I've yet to work that one out. But that whole sprint, that whole quarterfinal as well, Tom, it was actually Roland fastest, from Barnard 2nd, Tickton was 3rd, and then Verline was 4th fastest. 5th was De Vries, but he's gone through. 6th went to Evans, 7th for Dennis, and 8th for Verline. So it just shows you can go fast and slow in any part of the duels, but it's who you're facing. As for now, we get De Vries v Roland for the start of the semis.
Well, we'll see how Roland attacks turn 1. It was sweet last time he did it, and it's so sweet again from Oliver Roland, and he'll be up on De Vries, I'd have thought, by this stage, by the time he gets to Massenet. De Vries, meanwhile, through Vermont hairpin, and he seems to have nailed that so much there. Maybe a little bit too much curb on the entry to Portier, and he wants to apply the throttle nicely. Done, no wheel spin on the entry to the tunnel, and we're looking on the helmet can of De Vries as he heads out of the tunnel. This is on a mirrored angle that we're seeing from De Vries. He tackles the Neufeld chicane. Roland up by 2/10 as he goes through the tunnel now.
Yep, Roland's first sector at 25.511, second sector 36.811, De Vries 25.7, 36.7, so there's 2/10 for Roland to be up at the moment. So really has got the advantage here, Tom, and I think that's the big thing, is the fact that Roland just can't and won't keep that traction up.
De Vries heading over the line though. It'll be a 1:26.8. Roland has that time to beat. If he does that, he'll be through to the final of the duels. And yeah, he's a long way up. Josh, he's through. He's safely through now.
So Ollie Roland will go through to the final. The question is, who is he going to be facing? 1:26.617 for Roland. Stunning lap. 0.227 faster than De Vries. Next up, Ticktum and Barnard. My money's on Ticktum, really, but Barnard also goes strong here. It's a 50-50 approach.
Yeah, it's a 50-50. We'll see what the predictor says before these two go into combat. Not literally, but in terms of the time between the two. And this is Roland making his way through, and team radio from Roland.
Yeah, I love the rear end to the 3 of it. It's because of the steering. I have a lot more front end left-handers.
Yeah, he does, yeah. That was sort of predictable. Okay, so in now to the semi-final number 2 over an overcast Monaco. Never faced each other. Ticktum and Barnard. Barnard with a 51% predictor vote. 49% for Dan Ticktum. Well, advantage will come. Let's see who's going to be who as they come through the swimming pool. This is Ticktum. Barnard's starting his... Well, actually, yeah, Barnard's just behind him as well on this one. The final's going to be great.
Might give Barnard... It feels to me like the driver behind has the advantage in finding the time more than the car in front. So that could play into Barnard's hands in this semi-final. Ticktum heading over the line to begin his lap now. How does he go through turn 1 here? Don't know whether the car was sliding a little bit from that angle, but Ticktum's got away with it. Barnard is heading through. He's actually not too far behind. He's actually closer to Ticktum than we've seen other duels. Hopefully he won't be put off by Ticktum up ahead in the background. But
wow, big slide!
Barnard is up by a 10th, yeah.
Ticktum, big slide coming out of the Casino Square. First sector is a 25.393 for Ticktum. Barnard is 25.420. 27 thousandths between them at the moment. Well, this is going to be insane.
Yeah, it's going to be very close, Josh. This is probably going to be the closest duel we've had so far today. Ticktum heading through the tunnel. How does he go? Well, Barnard's able to find some time. He's back within half a 10th on Ticktum by this stage of the lap as he exits the tunnel now. We'll see an updated comparison. Has Ticktum been able to respond to Barnard. He hasn't. Barnard still has the advantage, but only ever so slightly.
Yeah, the gap is literally just half and half at the moment. They're going to try and bring this in as they can. Tinctum is second sector, 36.673. Barnard, 36.627, and nothing between them at the moment. Over the line we come then. Tinctum, fastest in FP1, fast FP2, fastest in the group, fastest in the stage, and he's done a 1:26.423. Barnard over the line, and he's in the final. It's a 1:26.315. Barnard blows it away by a tenth of a second. He will face Roland. It's an all-British final in Monaco.
It goes back to what I was saying about having that advantage, being the driver behind Josh. I'd love to get the stat as to how many times out of a possible 6 that the driver behind the one that starts his lap first has been able to end up finishing fastest.
How's this for a stat? Last year at Silverstone, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris became the first British top 3 drivers in any FIA championship history to line up 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Here in Monaco, Formula E Race 1, we've done it again. It will be third on the grid for Ollie... Well, it's going to be third on the grid for Dan Tinctum. Second and first are either going to be Barnard or Roland. We have a British top 3 on the grid.
Subject to any penalties, of course, but yes, we do have a top 3 on the grid there. McLaren applauding Taylor Barnard's performance as he makes his way through into the final Cooper Hero, much to their disappointment there. Would you say it was a missed opportunity, or was that the maximum that Tinctum could have got out of that?
I think that's the maximum he could get out of it. There was a few slides. I think he'll look back at the tape and regret the slide coming out of Casino Square down to Lowe's, but we'll see how that works out. In the meantime, we've got about 10 minutes to the final. Let's head down to the world feed as we look inside race control.
Other man on the other side of the garage, which was Russell O'Hagan. There is Alejandro Agag on the left-hand side, founder of Formula E. Inside the race director's office there's all the cameras and shots that Marek Kaniszewski and his fellow stewards could see. Let's just remind you how we got then to the final. So quarterfinals, we had De Vries versus Dennis, Verline versus Roland, Barnard versus Evans, and Wright versus Tinctum. The upshot is De Vries, Roland, Barnard and Tinctum were the 4 drivers who progressed forwards into the semis, and we see Barnard and Roland, the 2 drivers that will go through and into the finals in the front row fight here on the streets of Monte Carlo. An all-British lineup for the pole position shootout between those 2 drivers. And we have to say, Tinctum's lap time was mega impressive. If he'd been up against any other driver, then he'd be through, no question about it, and comfortably through.
Yeah, that's a shame for him, isn't it? You know, he's done the second fastest time of the day. Unfortunately, he was in the wrong semi-final, so to speak, for him.
Let's just have a look here at Taylor Barnard then. We're right on board with him. And the second and third sector were the ones where he really made it count. Just nice and smooth through the first corner there.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a brilliant job. I mean, it's an interesting situation he finds himself in, isn't it? Because he's now effectively out of a drive for next year with that team, you know, that are the championship. So Barnard's doing a brilliant job of auditioning for a top seed for next year at the moment, and that just watch his hands. You know, he's cat-like reflexes, but he's just fast, isn't he? He's just absolutely on it.
Yeah.
The most important asset for a race driver is pure speed.
Yeah. Amazing job for Barnard then. Second of his debut at 1 year ago. So we're right on board with Taylor Barnard. This is his lap from the semi-finals, making his way through the New Bell chicane in towards the back. This second and third sector is going to be absolutely phenomenal to watch. Just watch this, threading it through the chicane. Nothing left on the table, right up against the wall on the inside of the swimming pool as well. And Raskas, this is where Tinctum was so strong, the driver that Barnard was up against in that session.
As you mentioned, Karun, very shallow entries, not taking any wide lines at all, just getting to the apex as quickly as possible, but somehow managing to get the car rotated.
Well, you mentioned at the start of the duels, DC, it's the driver who makes the fewest mistakes, and not that we saw any particularly pronounced mistakes from Dan Tinctum, but there were fewer from Barnard.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it looks like Taylor so far this weekend, biggest mistake is his haircut.
Well, 1 second.
Yeah, there's not much more in it there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, that was, very fast lap from him, for sure, 26.3.
Qualifying is absolutely critical for the Monaco E-Prix, and for Dan Tincton, he'll be starting right at the sharp end of the grid, so something to be optimistic about going into the E-Prix. Let's go down, though, to the pit lane whilst we wait for the finals to get underway and catch up with Nick de Vries. He was knocked out of the semi-finals by Oliver Rowland.
Nick de Vries, I'm sure you would like to be starting one row forward, but equally still, your high start of the season.
Yeah, I think it was a solid session, and we definitely take P4. I think it's important to put ourselves in a good position ahead of the race, especially the first race. I think starting position is important, so I think we succeeded that. Of course, we were a little bit, gutted we couldn't get further, but I guess the others were slightly too strong for us today.
With the strategy that you have in mind, how much do you think you can extract in this race? Do you think there's a podium on the cards?
We'll definitely play for one, yes.
Great, thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Good to hear there for Nick de Vries, smiling in the face of adversity. Good qualifying for him in the Mahindra. Dan Tincton, though, we thought he might be on for pole position here today, and any other driver he got up against in that session other than Taylor Barnard, and it could possibly have been the case. The upshot is, though, he is out of the semi-finals after being out-qualified by the 20-year-old Briton. Let's go down to the pit lane and catch up with Dan Tincton.
Dan Tincton, we all thought your name was in lights today. You've been on rails, but just pipped by Taylor.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be brutally honest, 'cause that's what I do. I've been outperforming the car a little bit today. Like, I feel like I just hit the ground running really well, got into a really nice rhythm, haven't really made any mistakes. My first dual lap against Frines was a bit poor, actually, and then I found 4/10 in the next one, and honestly, maybe there's half a tenth in that lap, but I'm annoyed, but, I've done everything I can, so. Yeah.
Bit of toenail, though. Still plenty on the cars. This could maybe even play into your advantage.
Yeah, it would have been nice to sort of have, like, the perfect morning, and be P1, P1, P1. That would have been nice, but, yeah, I think in terms of where we are for the race, it's probably a better place to be.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Half a tenth of a second in it then for Taylor Barnard versus Dan Tincton, and it's over to the finals then here in Monte Carlo. So, Oliver Rowland versus Taylor Barnard. These two have got history, and I don't mean of the bad kind, I mean of the good kind, because Taylor Barnard actually used to race for Oliver Rowland's karting team back in the day. But now, how the tables have turned oh so quickly in motor racing. Barnard setting the fastest lap time of the weekend just a few moments ago in the semi-finals, and now he goes up against the championship leader. It's Nissan versus Nissan in terms of powertrain, factory team versus the Neon McLaren, as the green light comes on at the exit of pit lane, and the drivers will now filter out onto the track for the final time in the dual stages of qualifying, and we see who will be lining up on pole position.
Okay, Taylor, so let's try and find a bit of shade towards the exit, please.
They want to find that shade to keep the tyre and battery temperature cool, Tom. Who's your money on? Is it going to be Rowland or Barnard?
Ooh. I think Rowland will just edge it, but it goes back to us saying if you're the driver behind, you have that kind of advantage because of the track evolution.
It's going to be difficult.
I think it'll be, I'm going to give it to Barnard, but it's going to be a very close margin.
So 8th on the grid will be Evans, Dennis will be 7th, Frines will be 6th, Verline 5th, de Vries 4th, Tincton 3rd. That's how they line up as things stand. The pole, of course, up for grabs. And then, predictably, it should be whoever's fastest. Gunther will line up then in 9th, with Mortara 10th, Bird 11th, Beckman 12th, Muller 13th, Van Dorn 14th, Verne will be 15th, with DaCosta 16th, Nato 17th, Degrassi 18th, Boemi 19th, Cassidy 20th, Maloney 21st, Hughes 22nd. That's all because Verline got a 128.874 in Group A, Frines 129.236. So that's how it lines up on the odd and even numbered grids from row 5 onwards. We'll hopefully get the full grid just after this. But it's time for the final. Green flag, we're underway. And first up, it's going to be Ollie Rowland down towards turn number 1 at Sandoval. Good entry, goes a bit wide, hits the wall, but that's it. Rowland's out of it. Barnard has pole position. Rowland slaps in the wall, and it is going to be Barnard who automatically gets pole position here in Monaco.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were saying about how much we've seen drivers slide into Sunday Fall. We'll get a replay of Rowland hitting the wall. Yeah, he just carried too much speed into Sunday Fall compared to the previous laps he did. Barnard just needs, he could just cruise round. He could just simply cruise round and get pole this time around. That was a really costly error there from Oliver Rowland.
All the Christmases have come at once. What is it about 18-year-olds starting on pole position for World Championships this weekend? Andrea Kimi Antonelli's got it for the F1 sprint. Taylor Barnard's got it in Monaco. It's the day of the youngsters. He's got to complete the lap still, and he won't be pushing as hard, Tom, but he's still got to put in the time.
He's still got to put in the time, but he can just take it easy. He could just turn the battery down if he wanted to, which I'm sure he's done that by now. And yeah, he can just make his way through and yeah.
It'll be the slowest pole time in history, but it will be pole. They're already applauding him. You have to take the flag. Well, the fastest time was Barnard's at 1:26.315 in the semi-final 2. Pole time's going to be slower. It's a 1:30.117. But Taylor Barnard has pole position here in Monte Carlo as Ollie Rowland slams into the barrier.
And those 3 championship points for Taylor Barnard moves him up to 3rd in the championship ahead of Pascal Wehrlein before lights go green today.
Ha! Christmases come at once. Rowland's hit the wall. And it goes. It's a 1:06 for Rowland. He aborted the lap time.
Too much speed.
Yeah. Pretty hard, mate. What do I do?
It's a big whack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just too quick in.
It's broken the suspension as well, Tom. He wouldn't be able to continue even if he tried.
No, it would have wrecked the suspension even more if he tried to push. But yeah, that'll be hopefully not too much of a repair job because they've only got around about 3 hours before the race begins for the team. But Taylor Barnard, well, he'll be very happy with this particular performance. I think that's his 2nd pole of the season, if my memory serves me correctly. He was on pole in Jeddah, and now he's on pole in Monaco.
Wonderful race lined up then in Monaco in a few hours' time. Lights out at 2, on air from 1:45 British Summer Time on JB Motorsports and Formula E Zone. Be sure to join us for it. Right, let's head down to the world feed and get some action from the interviews, and then me and Tom will wrap up the session.
As he makes his way into Parc Fermé, and he will be starting the Monaco E-Prix from the head of the field.
Taylor, well done, buddy. Hey, how does that feel, huh? Step by step this weekend.
Lovely job from Taylor Barnard. And you can see what it means for the Neon McLaren team. As we look at Barnard now inside the FIA garage and jumping out of that one. And congratulations all round. It has been a bit of a tumultuous couple of weeks for Neon McLaren. The announcement coming out that the team will not be continuing in Formula E post-season 11. A bit of uncertainty as they seek new investments. But that will do them absolutely no harm at all when they're able to perform at levels such as this, especially with this young man behind the steering wheel. Barnard, 20 years old and 336 days. He can be the youngest ever winner in Formula E history. We're a long way away from that. The record is currently held by Max Günther, who was 22 years old, and that was at Santiago in Chile in 2020. So he's got a good opportunity to take yet another statistic to add to the book. As Ian James, the team principal, walks down pit lane here. And I'm sure we'll be absolutely delighted with that. And 3 points as well in the Teams Championship will do them no harm at all. That brings them on to 70, meaning that they will only be 10 points behind Nissan now, and it increases their advantage up from 4 points to 7 points over DS Penske. So smiles all round and reason for celebration there for Nissan. For Neil McLaren, rather, I should say, for Nissan on the other side. Not so delighted, and the question remains as to what damage was done by Rowland's impact into the wall at Sainte-Devote. It's unfortunate, really. We always know that we shouldn't have any heroics down into Sainte-Devote, but unfortunately for Barnard, for Rowland rather, he ends up in the barrier. We'll be chatting with him in a few moments' time as he collects his Julius Baer pole position trophy. Another one to add to the cabinet for the Neon McLaren team, and let's see whether that will be the only trophy that they will be holding at the end of this weekend. 2 races. See James and Karoon down there, the entry of pit lane. So they head towards the pit lane studio for us to have a chat with them and present that Julius Baer pole position trophy. Katie Munnings will be there talking to Taylor in a few moments' time. Pole at Monaco, DC, you can't beat it, can you?
No, such a good feeling, and a very busy little morning for him. Taking that pole just as we hit midday, so he deserves a nice little lunch. Oh, but hold on, he's racing this afternoon.
Exactly. It'll be a bit of pasta, maybe a little bit of salad if he's lucky, and possibly post-race pudding if it goes well.
If it goes very well.
Yeah, delight for Taylor Barnard and delight for Neon McLaren as well.
Yep, they've chipped away at it, as we heard from the team principal earlier in the weekend. Earlier in the day, excuse me, everything's been condensed. It was just about, he said they had everything in their armoury to go for the pole, and it's just a case of taking the steps necessary.
Thank you, Ian. It feels pretty good. It was very not expected, but yeah, really good job by everybody, especially from the steps that we've had since FP1. Really good job. Let's just try and finish this job this afternoon.
Yeah, superb job there for Taylor Barnard. Maturity beyond his years, both in and out of the car. There's the celebrations after securing that pole position. Okay, he got lucky with Rowland ending up in the barrier, but he still had to be in the right place at the right time. Yep. Let's go down and catch up with Katie Munnings, who is with our pole sitter, Taylor Barnard.
5, 4, 3. Taylor Barnard, you were making your debut this time last year, and now you're on pole position at the Monaco E-Prix. How does that feel?
It feels absolutely amazing, you know. After FP1 and FP2, we were struggling a little bit for pace, honestly. And to be honest, to make the Jaws was already an accomplishment. To be on pole, I don't really know how, but the team have done a great job. The steps we've made since FP1 have been great, and obviously to be on pole here, considering I started my Formula E career here last year, it's amazing.
So in that lap, was it a victory lap in the end, or were you still trying to push to learn how to, you know, the more laps the better with the 350 attack mode?
I mean, I pushed for the first sector because I was not sure exactly what I should do, but as soon as I knew that I didn't have to push, I saved the tyres, because it's quite critical with these tyres that you save them as much as you can, and obviously that's a little bit of a performance that I can keep for the race.
And how much are you going to try and maximise now? Obviously, we've got the new pit boost coming back in. Is it going to change your strategy being on pole position now?
I think the race is going to be more flat for sure. It's not going to be a heavy pack race. How it's going to work, we're not exactly sure. Of course, I'm going to do my best to try and keep my position and score some good points for the team.
Well, best of luck for the weekend. It's time to present you with the Julius Baer pole position trophy by the Julius Baer CEO, Stefan Bollinger. Congratulations.
Amazing race, and best of luck for this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Well, Taylor Barnard, or is it Slayler Barnard? That was an amazing performance from the young Briton. Just 20 years old, and a second Julius Baer pole position trophy in his first full-time rookie season in Formula E. What more does he have to do? Looking forward to seeing what he is going to be able to do when it comes to the E-Prix this afternoon.
Yeah, and here's your starting grid for that. Row 1 will see Taylor Barnard and Oliver Rowland. Row 2, Dan Ticktum and Nick de Vries. Row 3, Pascal Wehrlein, Robin Freins. Row 4, Jake Dennis and Mitch Evans. Row 5, Eduardo Mortar, Maximilian Gunther. Row 6, David Beckman and Sam Bird. But let's hear quickly from Ollie Rowland.
Oliver, obviously an unfortunate lap there, but you're still starting P2. Can you just talk us through what happened with the wall there?
Yeah, I just braked a little bit later than the semi-final before, and I locked the front and then got a lot of systems, and I knew I wasn't going to make it, but I tried and then hit the wall. So yeah, just I saw the lap he did in the semi-final. I said I have to kind of turn the screw a bit now, and it was a bit too much.
It seems like a super physical track. We've been watching, a lot of onboards this morning, especially getting the front hand to handle. Is it something that you feel like you perform well on this kind of surface?
Yeah, also it's like first proper street circuit of the year, I would say. Like the others are street circuits, but this one's like really threading the needle. So I enjoy these types of tracks. The most important thing for me was Miami was not very good. It's to bounce back, to be quick. I was happy just to be in the duels. So yeah, tomorrow if we make another small step, I'm sure we'll be right at the front again.
And it's deja vu, obviously, to Jeddah, starting front row with Taylor, your apprentice again. You must be very proud of him and to have been part of that journey also.
Yeah, he does a great job. I mean, I might stop giving him the data, so he keeps catching me bit by bit. But yeah, no, look, it's great that we've got 2 Nissan cars on the front row, and hopefully we can work well together in the race.
Best of luck for this afternoon.
Yeah, and after that would be row 7 with Van Dorn and Muller, row 8 DaCosta, Verne, row 9 Degrassi, Nato, row 10 Cassidy Buemi, row 11 Hughes and Maloney. Okay, Tom, what did you make of that one? I think a classic qualifying in all books. That was perfect, and a lot of information I've written down on my sheet up here in the box as well.
Well, I'll let you gather all your stats and data for you to share with me later for the race. But it was a brilliant qualifying session, and we're gearing up for the race, which is only just under 3 hours away. So can Taylor Barnard convert it into the win? I think it'll be his first in Formula E as well for Barnard if he's done it. 3 podiums he's got this year. Will he be able to make it 4, and this time standing on the top step on the streets of Monte Carlo?
Yeah, we'll have the starting grid lined up for you as well later. You can join us for all the action here on both JB Motorsports and Formula E Zone. We'll be live at 1:45 British Summer Time as soon as the flag falls from World Superbikes Race 1 will be underway for here. It's a busy day here on JB Motorsports as well. So much action and intrigue. We'll see you later on though for the first Monaco E-Prix with Pit Boost. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.